Okay, some new releases, some not so good, some pretty good. I have a bunch of watches to talk about, so we'll get right into it. I'll let you know what I think is good and what I think is not so good during the video. Let's start with my number one pick or new release. So the first watch I want to talk about is actually a few watches that I want to talk about. These are new releases from Christopher Ward that went way under the radar. In fact, I never received any information about these watches. I only saw them on Instagram, and then eventually when I went over to the Christopher Ward website, there was information about these watches there. These are larger versions of their very popular watches. So you can see a trend. There have been a few different brands that have come out with larger versions of their watches that were available in smaller sizes. They are coming out with a C60 Pro bronze in 44 millimeters. They're coming out with a C60 Trident GMT. They're coming out with a few different colors for this. So they're coming out with it in black or white, so you can get a black or white dial. This is $1,580. That is on their batter bracelet with their SW330, because this is a GMT. It gets their slightly higher end movement. Then there is the C60 Trident Pro 300, the dive watch that gets blue, black, or white dials, and that gets the Sellita SW200, $1,255 for this watch. Again, this is in 44 millimeters, upsizing the diver. So you're getting an upsized diver, you're getting an upsized GMT, and then of course that 300 bronze, that 300 Pro bronze, that C60. That one comes in at $1,490. So basically the exact same price as the smaller versions, just in an upsized case. Not something that I saw coming from Christopher Ward, but I am glad that they are accommodating more risks with all of their watches, and it kind of makes sense because there are a lot of people out there who want a larger watch, and Christopher Ward have delivered. If you love the watches that I talk about here on my channel, you're really going to love the website that I'm about to tell you about. It's called Wrist Rebels. Wrist Rebels is a website that has all of those small micro brands and independent brands that are really hard to find, all in one place. Brands like Formex, Awake, Martin Designs, and Squale, and many other brands you won't find anywhere else. Definitely check out Wrist Rebels at wristrebels.com. Also check out their Instagram at Wrist Rebels, and if you end up buying something, tell them that WatchChris sent you. The next release that I want to talk about is a release that got a lot of fanfare over the past few days, and I have to say I am not that crazy about this release. I think it's a pretty good looking watch. I think they got some of the details wrong. This is the TAG Heuer Carrera Seafarer. It is basically a follow-up to the original Seafarer that they came out with a little while ago with Hodinkee, and that watch was obviously a reissue of the original Abercrombie & Fitch Seafarer. That original version had a silvery white dial. They made a couple of different colors. Really, it was just silver and white and or black, but this new version has a silvery colored dial. They've put gold tone indices and hands, and the sub-registers are almost exactly the same as that original Seafarer from Abercrombie & Fitch. Now, Abercrombie & Fitch, those watches that were being sold through that department store in New York City, those watches were made by Jack Heuer. I actually own one of those watches from the early 1950s, and they were made into the 1960s. This gets a Carrera style case, so obviously this new Seafarer is a Carrera. There are a few things that I think are not so great about this watch. It's in 42 millimeters, so it's on the larger side. The original version that I have is around 34 or 35 millimeters. I think they made larger versions up to around 38 millimeters, but the one that this watch is an homage of was much, much smaller. So they could have went with a 39 millimeter case with the glass box chronograph, because that's what this is based on, a watch that I really like. They could have used the 39 millimeter case. For some reason, they used the 42 millimeter case. And then, of course, they put gilt indices and hands, a big departure from the original. So if they put this in silver, I think it would have looked a little bit better in my opinion. It does look very warm, and I like the look of this watch. It just doesn't look a lot like that original. And they also put it on a beads of rice bracelet. I'm not a huge fan of beads of rice, but I think this watch does look pretty good on it. I just wouldn't choose that for myself. I would probably prefer this on a strap. This cost $8,800. I think that is a lot of money for a Tag Heuer. Tag Heuer should really stay in their lane. This watch should cost around $4,500. I've been saying this about the glass box chronograph for a while. They are too expensive. They're really good looking. I like them, but I think they are too expensive for what they are and who Tag Heuer are, even within their own group, and more approachable. It is Tag Heuer after all, not Zenith. So I think these are a little bit too expensive in my opinion. The next watch is a watch that I really liked. I got to see this watch when I went to Vail recently with Oris. It is their new Big Crown Pointer Date Bullseye. This is affordable. Probably one of the cheaper watches on this list. It is around $2,400. It's powered by a Sellita base, and it gets a beautiful tuxedo bullseye dial. Very good looking watch in 38 millimeters with a coin edge bezel, which I really like on the Pointer Date. It's a reissue of an original design. It looks like a vintage watch, and that tuxedo dial really does dress it up a little bit and make it look a little bit more special than your run-of-the-mill Pointer Date. I like this watch, and I really like that they keep this under $2,500, which you can see a lot of brands aren't doing these days. Omega Moonwatch Fatigue. I talked about Moonswatch Fatigue in a recent video. I'm talking about Moonwatch Fatigue here today because I feel like they have come out with so many different versions of the Moonwatch. After a while, it is all a blur. This is something that Panerai did for a very long time. They kept on coming out with limited editions that had just slight variations. You couldn't tell the difference between all of the limited editions. And I think that Omega, especially with the Moonwatch, has done this. They've just come out with the black and white Moonwatch. They're 42 millimeters. They're getting applied indices, not printed indices like most Moonwatches. They get a polished black dial and their sub-dials are in white. It looks really good. I like the looks of these watches. I think they are very good looking. They're priced kind of high, $10,400 for the steel, $49,300 for the gold. Gold is very expensive right now, I get it, but this is kind of crazy, $50,000. You do get a bracelet, so there is a lot of gold going into this. They are powered by a Metas certified caliber, the 3861. But like I said, I have a little bit of a fatigue when it comes to the Moonwatch. I see so many of these. After a while, it all becomes a blur. There are just too many Moonwatches right now on the market, and the prices keep on creeping up and up and up. That's just my opinion. I want to hear what you guys have to say, so add a comment down below. The next few watches I'm a little bit confused by, but at the same time, I do like a majority of the watches we're talking about. These are Seikos, and they are in celebration of the 145th anniversary of the brand. Yes, 145. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they have to come out with watches every year for some sort of anniversary. There are millions of different anniversaries that they have been celebrating. And again, a little bit of fatigue with this celebration of anniversaries. It's almost kind of funny, but there you go. But they have come out with some cool watches. One watch that I think is pretty cool, it's not my favorite out of the bunch, it is a King Seiko, the KS1969, inspired by, obviously, King Seiko, the 45 KCM. It gets a beautiful gray textured gradient dial that I really like on this watch. It has a really nice bracelet on it, gold tone indices and hands, with that brown dial, that texturing. It looks really good. Normally, I end up dogging King Seikos a little bit because they are kind of expensive for what you're getting, but I do like this watch. I think it looks really good. It gets their slim caliber, that's what they call it. It is the 6L35. It is a slightly higher end movement than their 6R movement. It's a really nice movement. It actually looks pretty good as well. This comes in at $3,100. I think it's on the more expensive side, but it is a very good looking watch. 50 meters of water resistance and 39 millimeters. Really good looking watch. That is the KS1969. Then they came out with a new speed timer. I really love this speed timer, and I think it's kind of good for the price, which is not something that I always say with Seiko. Slightly off-white dial. I like that. Gold tone indices and hands. You can see a theme here. A lot of gold used in these watches for the 145th anniversary. I have no idea why, but that's what they've chosen to do. This is the SPB 538J1. It comes in at $2,500. It's an automatic chronograph powered by the 8R48. I've owned watches with the 8R movement in it. This is a somewhat higher end movement from Seiko. It's a workhorse. It has a column wheel. It's not the best looking movement in the world, but it's really a very reliable and really good chronograph. These are limited to 700 pieces, which is not an incredible amount for Seiko. And I just kind of like this. I think that the bracelet looks really good. It has that speed timer bracelet, which is a multi-link bracelet. And when I reviewed the speed timer here, the most recent speed timer releases here on my channel, I loved the bracelet, and this gets that same bracelet. I think these look great. And for $2,500 from Seiko and it being a chronograph, that's not a bad price. The next is a really interesting watch, and I'm glad that they made this. This is the Seiko Presage. It draws inspiration from a variation of the Timekeeper, the first watch that Seiko's founder made. It has a big onion crown, a knurled bezel, and the case itself is in a gold toned stainless steel. Now, I'm not a huge fan of that, but I really think this is a very novel piece for them to make, and this is not a limited edition, I don't think. I didn't see that information on their website. It might be a limited edition. I'm not 100% sure of that, but this is kind of a funky watch for Seiko to make. It comes in at $1,900, which isn't incredibly expensive. It's the SRQ059J1. It gets a white enameled dial with very large Roman numerals. It's powered by a 6R movement, and it comes on a really thin bun strap, which I really like because this gets wire lugs. It looks very vintage, 35 millimeters, but it will wear slightly larger because of that strap. I like this. I think this looks very clean and very vintage looking, and it does not look like a Seiko. When someone sees it on your wrist, they're going to be like, what is that? And you're going to say it's a Seiko, and they're going to be like, wow, is that a vintage Seiko? No, it's actually a modern Seiko. Kind of cool. I really like it. I like what they've done with this watch, and I hope that they keep on making watches like this. I know they've done these in the past, but this one is $1,900. I think this is more affordable than versions that they've made in the past, so I hope that they continue doing things like this. And the last Seiko I want to talk about is an Astron. This is probably my least favorite out of the group because this is a black and gold version. So you can see all of these watches have gold incorporated into them in some way. This is a titanium watch, and you have black titanium and gold titanium. It's 44 millimeters. It has lots of functionality because it is an Astron. It features solar charging, radio control, perpetual calendar, chronograph, dual time, among other functionality. So you're getting a lot of functionality packed into that 44 millimeter case. The black and gold are made from titanium, and they have a super hard coating. So essentially, it's grade 2 titanium with a super hard coating in either black or gold tone, which looks really good if you like that. I'm not a huge fan of black and gold in this way, the way that they have done it. So that's why I would say this is probably my least favorite out of the group. This is the SSH 186J1, and this is priced at $3,300. So there you go, 4 watches in celebration of the 145th anniversary of Seiko. Like I said, I don't think that makes a ton of sense, but I can't wait to see what they do for the 146th anniversary of Seiko. And the last watch that I want to talk about on this list is a color variation. So just a dial change on a watch, but they have managed to make this watch look completely different. I've talked about this brand many times here on my channel. I will own one of their watches. I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. It's Albishorn. All of their watches are based off of the same movement thus far. That is a highly modified Valjoux 7750 chronograph. However, they have made them look so unique. And I believe the person who started this brand and currently owns this brand worked at Angelus. So you could see some of that inspiration here as well. This is a new Type 10 chronograph. It's called the Officer. It gets a creamy white dial, a black bezel. So this is a black and white dial, and I really like the look of this chronograph with this color combination. Now, if you're not familiar with Albishorn, essentially what they do is they make imaginary watches. Well, they're real watches, but they have an imaginary history. So the Type 10 is a predecessor to the Type 20. That's kind of the whole point of their brand. Famous watches, and they are reimagining either a predecessor or maybe a watch that came after this iconic watch that they are inspired by. So really cool idea, and they've made some really cool watches. Right now they've made only one type of watch. It is a chronograph, and they've made a bunch of different dial and bezel variations to the point where they look almost completely different. And this one is in a black and white. I really like it. 39 millimeters, like I said, a Valjoux 7750 architecture, but it is heavily modified. This is limited to 99 pieces, and it gets 100 meters of water resistance. Price on this is $4,500, but for what you're getting, this is a really cool watch that I think is really good looking, has a really cool story behind it. The person who is making it is really passionate, and I think these are very unique looking. There aren't many watches out there that look as good as this watch at this price point, getting weird complications and a weird design like this watch is getting. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of the watches that I spoke about today? Do you have Moonwatch fatigue like I do? Are there too many Moonwatches out there? Tell me down in the comments below. Also, what about Seiko celebrating the 146th anniversary next year with some special editions? I think that's probably on the horizon as well. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is really helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. I will catch you guys in the next video.